Let's select some. Damien. Hey, Damien. You know, you've made a couple of contributions today. One or two of the things that you've said have added some value. What word am I about to say? How did you know that? That's amazing. You really are mind readers. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say that. How did you know? Are you really mind readers? How did you know that I was going to say that word? The way I spoke, what specifically? The tone? What about the tone? Let's try it again. Damien,
You were building up to something.
I was building up to something. Damien, listen to the tone. One or two, there was pauses. Well, you've made some contributions today. What's happening to the tone? It's dropping. It's negative. Yeah, you know it's negative because it's dropping. It's what's called sentence dropping. That's what it's called, right? The words themselves were reasonably positive, weren't they? So it was, let's just take the words themselves. Damien, some of the contributions you've made today have been helpful, and one or two of the things that you've added have really, you've said have really added value. It was something along those lines, wasn't it? So the words themselves were reasonably positive, but you knew, didn't you, through a combination of words, tone, my tone of voice, some of you mentioned, and what else? Intonation is the tone element. What about timing? I guess is included within tonality. What about the way that I communicated non-verbally? The body language, the physiology as it's sometimes called. You're absolutely right. Some of you will be familiar with these numbers I'm about to show you. That the nature of communication is a combination of these three things, isn't it? You know, you've heard it, haven't you? It's not what you say, it's
How you see it.
the way that you say it. Bananarama, I believe, 1988. Fine musical band. Now, it's a combo of the words, the tone, and the way that the body and facial expressions, breathing patterns, skin tone, colour, all of those things, eye dilation, all of that stuff contribute together. And the combo of those three things help you to understand what it is that's going on. Let's just test this, shall we? Because sometimes there's what's called incongruence between these three channels. Let's test it. So listen to the words. And as you're listening to the words, take note of the tonality and the physiology. Here it goes. I'm really enjoying being with you lot today. What did the words say? Yeah, I'm really enjoying being with you. What did the tone say? I'm not. What did the physiology say? I'm not. Now, there's a fella, only if you're interested, I mean, if you must know, there was some work done by a fellow called Albert Mehrabian. Albert Mehrabian. He wrote a book in 1970 called Silent Messages. And he was interested in what he called incongruence. Incongruence. That's to say, this is so important for you in your industry sector. Incongruence. That's to say, when the words and the tone and the body language are not aligned. Let's go back to my example. Hey, folks, I've got to tell you, I'm really enjoying spending time with you today. There's a congruence about that. The words and the tone and the physiology are all saying the same thing. You believe it. But you know, don't you? I'm really enjoying spending time. There's incongruence. Which bit do you leave? What Mehrabian identified was this. Where there's incongruence, this is massively misquoted. Where there is incongruence, then he identified a ratio of meaning or significance and said that 7% of the meaning comes from the words when there's incongruence, that 38% of the meaning comes from the tonality where there's incongruence, and 55% comes from the physiology. That's to say, ladies and gentlemen, do the sums there, do the math. The Americans say, don't they? 93% of meaning when there's incongruence comes from the tone and the physiology. Check it out. Really enjoying being with you today. 93% of the communication is telling you the opposite of the words. In your world of community, of customer service, in your world of coaching, it's so important that you get congruence. Now let's just go back to good old Damien. One or two of the things you had to say were, and you knew that that wasn't true. You knew there was a but coming, didn't you? Now, incidentally, what's coming after the but? Negative. What kind of negative do you think? Criticism? Yeah, it could be criticism. Could be a request for change, couldn't it? What is he thinking internally? How's he preparing for it? Defenses up, barriers up. He knows there's going to be some form of psychological, emotional, or maybe even physical pain. He knows that. And as you hear that message, you're getting ready for the but, aren't you? Let's try it out, Paul. One or two of the things you've had to say today have been useful. A couple of the contributions you've... Right. But what's coming? Shock and horror. I'll tell you what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Poor old Damien there knows he's being bitten by the butt monster. Da, da, da! Registered trademark. So, you know there's going to be a request for change. What happens? You do what? Put the barriers up. What happens to your body? You're getting ready for what? We're just domesticated primates. What are we getting ready for? Fight or flight, conflict. That's all we do. We're getting ready. We know there's a butt monster. There's going to be some criticism. There's going to be some psychological, emotional pain. We're getting ready for it, Bippin. We're getting ready. There are only three things. There's fight. We've got to do that. Or there's flight. We've got to run like that. There's a third one. Do you know what the third one is?
Stand your ground.
Stand your ground, one option, which would end up being a fight. Play dead. You know that one? Play dead today at work goes like this. Laptop. Oh, he's in the mood. Keep my head down. Fight or flight. What happens when you're getting ready for a fight? What happens when you're getting ready to run away? What happens to your body? Freeze. What happens to your muscles? You're getting ready. It's going to kick off any second. You get tense. Your muscles tense up, don't they? The arteries contract and they squirt blood through. You breathe high, rapid, shallow, hyperventilate. You get as much in as you possibly can because any second now it's kicking off. You better be ready. What else happens? We sweat profusely. We get clammy hands. You get the sweat over the top lip or in the hairline, down the spine. Why are we sweating? Because in a moment we've got to cool down the engine because we're going to be going for it. Hammer and tongues any second now. What else? The hairs stick up all over our bodies. Why? Because we've got to circulate the air to keep the engine cool. Our eyes dilate so that we can get every piece of light in that we can. Because any second now it's going to happen. What, just because you said but? Well, kind of. It's much diluted. But we're just domesticated primates. And when people are getting ready for the butt monster, because you know, Damien, there's going to be a request for change, which is some form of criticism, some request to do things differently, there's an implied criticism, you're getting ready for it, aren't you? And you've all experienced it, you've all heard the footsteps down the corridor, and you know what's coming. And it may not have been recently, but in the past, you've felt the tension. Ladies and gentlemen, you use the but monster, you use the but word with people, what happens at a much diluted level is you cause them distress. Mild anxiety, yes, but it's still unnecessary. But there is a better way of operating. What we do is this. We keep the tonality level or even more up than it was before. We make it more positive than it needs to be. And instead of using the but monster, we use the word and it goes like this. Hey, Damien. Some of the things you said this morning, brilliant. A couple of the ideas you put in the mix there, just superb. You know, the guy's got a lot out of it. And you know what would be great is if this afternoon you could contribute even more than that. Would you be up for that? Aye. Let's try another one. You do the same thing, tonality level or further up, more positive than it really needs to be. Instead of and, we have full stop, deep breath, swallow. This is how it goes. Hey, Damien. Couple of things you had to say this morning. Brilliant. Some of the guys got a lot out of the contributions you made. Full stop, deep breath, swallow. You know what would be great this afternoon? If you can contribute like that even more, the rest of the gang get loads out of it. You up for that? All right. Aye. So that's the way, instead of using the butt monster. This hurts people, all right? Don't use it. Find different ways, and just think of some other language that hurts.